Hello, here we are again. SpellTime06, page 32, and today's story is called Sorry About That. Susan loves her garden, but she has one problem. Her neighbour has about 30 hens and one gigantic rooster. Every evening, the hens come through the fence and tear up the grass. Susan decides to borrow her mother's cat. She's sure the cat will keep the hens away. But the next morning, Susan is horrified to find pieces of fur all over the garden, and the cat is nowhere to be seen. "Sorry about that," says her neighbour. "My rooster, you know." The next day, Susan borrows her grandfather's dog. But the next morning, the dog is nowhere to be seen. "Sorry about that," says her neighbour. "My rooster, you know." Then Susan has a brilliant idea. She goes to the store and buys a dozen eggs. Early the next morning, before the sun rises, she hides the eggs under the bushes in her garden. Later, when she sees that her neighbour is up and about, she goes into the garden and begins to collect the eggs. "Thank you for these wonderful eggs," she calls to her neighbour. "Your hens are welcome in my garden whenever they like." Strangely enough, the hens never came into her garden again. Get it? Okay, let's look at one or two words here. There are quite a few words that end in ES. Let's have a look at the pronunciation of them. Susan loves her garden. Loves. L-O-V-E-S. She decides. D-E-C-I-D-E-S. Decides. Loves. She goes to the store. G-O-E-S. Now, in none of these words do you hear the E. Goes, decides, loves. But in one word here, you actually you actually hear the sound. Do you know which one it is? Early the next morning, before the sun rises, the ES is pronounced R-I-S-E-S, before the sun rises. So when you're looking at the words, and a word that ends in ES, you have to be quite careful how to pronounce it. Now look at the story yourselves. Well, that's all for today. See you again soon.